There's a version of you that spends the whole day slightly performing, not lying, exactly, just adjusting. You soften a sentence before you send it, so nobody takes it the wrong way. You replay a small thing you said in a meeting hours ago, wondering if it sounded stupid. You notice who liked the photo and who didn't, and you feel something you'd be a little embarrassed to admit out loud. And by the time you finally lie down at night, you're tired in a way that sleep doesn't quite reach, because the part of you that's been managing everyone's possible reactions all day never actually got to clock out. I want to talk tonight about caring, or more precisely, about a particular kind of caring that's quietly running your life, and about what the title of this video really means. Because on the surface it sounds wrong. It sounds like advice to become cold, to stop trying, to shrug at everything, and call that freedom. That's not what I mean, and I think you already sense it isn't, or you wouldn't have clicked. Because you don't actually want to stop caring about the things that matter to you. What you want is to stop being ruled by the things that don't. And those are not the same, even though they've been wearing the same word your whole life. So let me be honest about what I'm not saying before I say anything else. I'm not going to tell you that if you just stop caring, the universe will reward you. That's a pleasant story, and it isn't true. Nobody detaches their way into a promotion or a soulmate by performing indifference. Life doesn't work like a slot machine that finally pays out the moment you look away. What I'm going to try to show you is something quieter and far more useful than that. That one very specific kind of caring has been getting in your own way for a long time, and that when it loosens, things you'd been forcing start to move on their own. Not because the universe conspired on your behalf, because you finally stopped standing in your own path. Let's start with what this caring actually looks like, because it disguises itself well, and most people never catch it in the act. It looks like effort. It looks responsible. You care what your boss thinks, so you rewrite the email 4 times. You care whether your friend is upset, so you scan every word of their last text for a hidden tone. You care about doing it right, so you don't start until you're certain it'll be good, and then somehow you don't start at all. From the outside and even from the inside, this looks like conscientiousness, like you're someone who takes things seriously, who doesn't cut corners, who pays attention. But watch it long enough and you'll notice something is off. The caring never converts into peace. It just keeps generating more of itself. You handle one worry and 2 more appear behind it. There's no finish line anywhere. That's the tell. Genuine care about an outcome has a natural stopping point the moment you've done your honest part. This other thing never stops because it was never really about the outcome at all. It was about managing a feeling. And the feeling underneath is usually some version of this. If I stop monitoring how I'm being received, something bad will happen. I'll be misunderstood, rejected, left behind, seen as less than I hoped I was. So you keep the monitoring system running around the clock, tracking your standing in every room, adjusting, smoothing, checking, correcting. It feels like control. It feels like it's protecting you from some disaster just over the horizon. But notice what it actually costs. You're never quite inside the room you're actually in, because half of you is always up in the control tower, watching yourself be in it, grading the performance in real time. Here's a question worth sitting with for a second. When you replay a conversation for the 10th time, are you actually trying to learn something from it? Or are you trying to make an anxious feeling go away? Because if you were genuinely learning, you'd have finished after the first pass, maybe the second. The 10th replay isn't analysis. It's a compulsion wearing the mask of thoughtfulness. And the strange thing is that it works, a little, for about a minute. Reviewing the moment gives you a brief sense that you're doing something about it, that you're in control of it. Then the relief drains out, and you go around again. You're not solving the worry. You're feeding it just enough to keep it breathing. So what does it actually mean to stop caring? In the way this video is pointing at, It doesn't mean caring about nothing. It means dropping the specific habit of trying to control how things land. There's the part of any situation that's genuinely yours. The effort, the honesty, the work, the reaching out. And then there's the part that was never yours. How it's received, whether they approve, whether it works, what people quietly conclude about you afterward. Almost all of your exhaustion comes from trying to run the second part with tools that only work on the first. You can control whether you send a thoughtful message. You cannot control whether they read it in a thoughtful mood. And every hour you spend trying to control that second thing is an hour of real effort poured into a lock your key was never cut for. You can push on it all night. It doesn't turn because it was never your lock. There's a distinction in Buddhist thought that names this more precisely than the word caring ever could. It's the difference between doing something and clinging to its result. You can act fully, wholeheartedly, with everything you've got, and then genuinely release your grip on how it turns out. Those two things can live together, even though every instinct tells you that caring means clenching. We assume that the harder we grip an outcome, the more likely we are to receive it. But grip and outcome have almost nothing to do with each other. The grip doesn't reach the result. It only reaches you. It tightens your shoulders and shortens your sleep and lays a film of low static over every hour of your day. While the outcome, meanwhile, unfolds according to 100 factors, your clenching never once touches. Now, this is where I have to be careful, because the title of this video is exactly the kind of thing a certain shallow version of spirituality would run away with. Stop caring, and life flows, they'd say, and they'd mean something almost magical by it, as if detachment is a secret technique for making good things appear. Let go of the relationship, and they'll come running back. Stop wanting the job, and it'll fall into your lap. That's not wisdom. That's just wishing dressed up in robes, and it's worse than useless, because it turns letting go into one more strategy for control, which defeats the entire point. If you're releasing the outcome in order to secretly summon it, you haven't released anything at all. You've just moved the grip behind your back, where you can't see it. So let me say plainly what flow really means here, because it's both smaller and far more real than the magical version. When you stop clenching around outcomes, life starts to feel like it flows, and it happens for 3 concrete reasons, none of which require the universe to lift a finger. The first is simple. You stop bleeding energy. All the fuel that was going into monitoring and rehearsing and second-guessing comes back to you, and suddenly you have more of yourself available for the thing that's actually in front of you. The second is that you become easier to be around and more able to genuinely see other people, because you're no longer scanning their faces for verdicts about yourself. Relationships loosen and warm the moment one person stops needing constant reassurance from them, the way a room relaxes when someone finally stops apologizing. And the third is that you start acting sooner and more freely, because you're no longer waiting for a guarantee before you'll begin. The thing you'd been avoiding out of fear of doing it imperfectly, you finally just do it, imperfectly. And it turns out that imperfect and started beats perfect and paralyzed almost every single time. That's the flow, not magic. Just what happens to a river when you stop trying to catch every drop of it in your hands. There's something worth pausing on here, because people often hear that phrase and quietly turn it into do nothing. But a river isn't passive. It's one of the most persistent forces on Earth. It moves constantly. It shapes canyons. It finds its way around every stone in its path. What it doesn't do is argue with the stone. It doesn't stop at the boulder and spend the next 3 hours insisting the boulder shouldn't be there. It meets the obstacle, acknowledges it completely, and moves around it without losing a single degree of its momentum. That's the kind of not caring worth having, not the stillness of a puddle, the intelligence of moving water, which cares enormously about getting where it's going, and cares nothing at all about the rocks having the decency to move out of the way first. You can be exactly like that, fully engaged, fully in motion, and completely done arguing with the parts of reality that were never going to rearrange themselves for your comfort. Let me put this inside an actual life, because it's easy to nod along in the abstract and completely miss it in your own days. Imagine someone who's been trying to make a friendship feel secure. They text carefully. They notice when replies come slower than usual and quietly read meaning into the gap. They're a little too available, always the first to reach out, always slightly braced for some sign that they matter less than they hope they do. And the painful, invisible thing is that all this caring makes the friendship worse, not better. The other person can sense the neediness underneath, even if they could never name it, and it makes the whole connection subtly heavier to carry. Now imagine that person simply stops. Not out of coldness, not as a clever manipulation to make the friend chase them. They just quietly decide to stop auditing their own worth in every exchange. They reply when they have something real to say. They let a slow reply just be a slow reply, nothing more. And over a few weeks, with no dramatic conversation and no announcement, the friendship gets lighter. Not because they played it cool, because they took their thumb off the scale, and a thing that had been distorted by their grip was finally allowed to rest at its natural weight. That's what people are pointing at when they say things flow after you let go. It was never that the letting go reached out and fixed something. It's that the constant interference stopped, and the thing turned out to be healthier than your anxiety ever let it be. But I don't want to make this sound too clean, because there's a trap sitting right next to the truth. Close enough that a lot of people grab the wrong one and spend years believing they've arrived. The counterfeit of not caring is numbness. It's when you stop caring not because you've made peace, but because caring got too painful and shutting down felt safer than staying open. You tell yourself you've become detached, evolved, unbothered, but real letting go leaves you warmer and more open, more able to love the next thing that comes along. Numbness leaves you colder and more walled off, and then it calls the walls serenity and hopes you won't inspect it too closely. The test is always your warmth. If your new not caring is making you harder, quicker to dismiss people, secretly a little proud of how little you feel these days, that isn't freedom. That's an old wound wearing calm as a costume. You didn't stop caring. You just stopped letting yourself feel the caring, which is a very different thing and a much lonelier one. There's also a sharper version of the same trap. Sometimes we use I don't care as a weapon. We go silent on someone and call it detachment, when the silence is actually doing a job. It's punishing. It's waiting for them to notice our absence and come back. That isn't equanimity. Equanimity has no hidden agenda tucked underneath it. If your calm is secretly hoping to produce a reaction in someone else, it isn't calm yet. It's a strategy. And strategies keep you chained to the very outcome you claim to have released. You can test it with one honest question. If they never came back, never noticed, never reacted at all, would your peace survive it intact? If the answer is no, then what you're holding isn't peace. It's a longer, quieter, better disguised form of waiting. So how do you actually loosen the grip tonight, without turning cold and without secretly turning it into another manipulation? It starts with noticing the grip at all, because most of the time it runs completely below your awareness. So let's bring it down into the body for a moment, since the body has usually been carrying this the whole time while the mind took all the credit. Notice your jaw right now, wherever you are. An enormous amount of this low, constant caring lives there, clenched without your permission and without your noticing. Let it hang slightly loose. Now, your shoulders, which have almost certainly drifted up toward your ears over the hours of the day, let them come down. And take one breath where the exhale runs a little longer than the inhale. Not to fix anything, not as a technique to solve your problems. Just to notice that even while everything in your life remains exactly as unresolved as it was 60 seconds ago, Your body is still allowed to unclench. Nothing out there changed, and you softened anyway. That gap between the unchanged situation and the softened body is the whole lesson in miniature. It's living proof that the tension was never actually holding your life together. It was just a habit you picked up somewhere along the way, while trying to control things that were never yours to hold. Here's a way to see the two kinds of caring clearly in your own situation. Take whatever's been sitting heavy on you lately, the thing your mind keeps drifting back to. Now, separate it into two piles. In the first pile, put everything about it that genuinely responds to your effort. The words you choose, whether you show up, the quality of the work you actually do, whether you're honest, whether you reach out or stay quiet. In the second pile, put everything that doesn't move no matter how hard you push against it. What they think of you, whether they approve, how it ultimately turns out, whether you get the response you're aching for. Now be honest with yourself about where your nights have been going. Almost everyone discovers they've been living almost entirely in the second pile, pouring their one and only life into the part that doesn't respond, while the first pile, the part that would actually move if they touched it, sat there quietly waiting the whole time. The practice is not to stop caring about that second pile. You can't, and trying just stacks another layer of pressure on top of everything else. The practice is to keep returning your attention and your effort to the first pile, again and again, gently, every time you catch yourself wandering back into the second, and you will wander back constantly. That isn't failure. Catching yourself and returning is the entire exercise. It's less like a switch you flip once and more like a muscle you build by using it badly at first, then a little less badly, then eventually with something that starts to resemble ease. Now I want to name the fear underneath all of this, because it's the real thing we've been circling from the very beginning. Underneath the monitoring and the rehearsing and the careful management of how you come across is a quiet, rarely spoken belief that your worth is on trial in every single interaction. That if you stop defending it for even a moment, if you stop performing and adjusting and checking, the verdict will come back against you. And so you never truly rest, because resting feels like walking out of the courtroom and leaving your own defense unattended. But here's the thing that constant vigilance can never allow you to discover. Your worth was never actually up for a vote. The trial you've been showing up to every single day is a trial that isn't happening anywhere except inside your own head. The judge left the building a long time ago. You're the only one still sitting in the empty courtroom, still making your case, still afraid to leave in case the verdict comes down the very moment you stop watching for it. And the freedom people describe, the flow, the ease, the lightness, it isn't something you finally earn by winning the trial. It's what remains when you understand, all the way down, that there was never a trial to win in the first place. And I want to say something about where this fear usually comes from, because understanding its origin makes it easier to set down. Almost nobody wakes up one day and decides to monitor every interaction for signs of rejection. This habit gets built, usually early, usually in a place where love or approval felt conditional, where being received well seemed to depend on getting something exactly right. A child who learns that affection arrives when they perform and withdraws when they don't will grow into an adult whose nervous system treats every room as a place where their standing must be earned again from scratch. If that's you, I want you to hear this clearly. The vigilance made sense. Once, it was a reasonable response to a real environment. It kept you safe in a situation you didn't choose. The problem is not that you developed it. The problem is that it kept running long after the environment changed, long after you became someone who could survive disapproval, long after the people around you stopped grading you the way you're still grading yourself. You don't need to be angry at the habit. You can thank it for the job it did and gently let it know it can stand down now. The war it was fighting ended years ago. Nobody told it. So it kept standing guard over a border that no longer exists, and it's exhausted, and it's allowed to rest. That's why life seems to flow the moment the caring loosens. Not because the world suddenly softened toward you, because you stopped bracing against a threat that was never really there. And a body that is embraced moves through its days completely differently. It sleeps better, it notices more. It reaches toward things without first calculating the precise odds of humiliation. It lets a slow reply be a slow reply, and a quiet room be a quiet room, without turning either one into evidence in a case against yourself. None of this means the things you love stop mattering. Let me be as clear as I can about that as we come toward the end, because I don't want you walking away hearing an instruction to care less about your people, your work, your life. Care deeply. Care with everything you have. The shift was never from caring to not caring. It's from caring and clenching to caring and releasing. You do the honest, wholehearted thing, and then you open your hands and let the result be whatever it's going to be. That isn't indifference. It's the most mature form of caring there is, because it's the only kind that doesn't quietly demand that the entire world rearrange itself around your fear. So here's the one thing I'd ask you to try. Just this. Nothing more. Nothing added on top. Tomorrow, pick one small thing you'd normally manage carefully. The wording of a message, a decision about what to wear, a task you'd usually polish long past the point where the polishing helps anyone. And do it at 80%. On purpose. Send the message without the fourth rewrite. Make the decision in half your usual time. Hand in the work when it's good enough instead of waiting until it's flawless. Then watch what actually happens, not to the outcome, but to you. Notice that the earth keeps turning. Notice that the quiet disaster you were bracing for simply doesn't arrive. You're not lowering your standards. You're testing, in one small and genuinely safe place, whether the clenching was ever doing the work you believed it was doing all this time. Almost every time, you'll find that it wasn't. Go back to that version of you from the very start. The one performing quietly, all day long, tired in a way that sleep never seems to reach. Nothing about your circumstances has changed tonight. The people are still the people. The uncertainties are still uncertain. But maybe you can see now that the exhaustion was never coming from your life itself. It was coming from the second job you'd been working on top of it, the endless unpaid labor of managing how you're received by everyone around you. And that job, it turns out, you're allowed to quit. Not the caring, just the clenching. If you'd like, leave one word below for the thing you're going to hold a little more loosely this week. Not drop, just loosen. Sometimes naming it once in your own words is enough to feel your hand start to open. And when you're ready, there's a natural next question already waiting on the other side of this one. Because loosening your grip on how you're received is one thing, but learning to actually trust your own judgment, to know what's genuinely worth your care in the first place, without looking to anyone else to hand you the answer, that's a deeper skill entirely. And that's exactly where we'll go next.